Hello and welcome back to my never-ending project. That is my 2007 Audi A4 Avant, which I bought for $1,000 many months back. And of course, I've definitely spent more than that trying to get it back on the road by putting a new engine in it and also doing a little bit of fixes here and there. But nonetheless, there is still many things to do to this vehicle as it's just never ending. And of course, if you missed the last episode where I basically plastic welded the whole front end, be sure to check out the link in the top right corner to get caught up on that. And now, as you can see, it's looking pretty good. However, there is still some small things I need to address, like the passenger door not opening from the inside, and of course the typical broken glove box, which happens on every B7 that I know. And not to mention a couple other little finishes here and there that need to be sorted. So let's get to it. One of the first things I'm going to do to this vehicle, because it's been driving me crazy for a long time, is actually replacing this weather stripping that goes around the door. And that's because it is all chewed up right here on the side. That's all gone. And then of course a little bit down here. So I know you can probably see in the background the interior is a little bit dirty. Don't mind that. I will get it cleaned after I'm done today's work. It should be just as easy as pulling it off here. Okay, so weather stripping is gone, of course, but there's a lot of dirt and things like that here. I'm gonna vacuum this up really quickly here, and then we'll install the new one. All right, that looks a lot cleaner than what I did before, so now it's time to install the new weather stripping. All right, new weather strip is installed, and boy, does it look nice. There's no rips or tears right here or down here where your feet always catch and hit the scuff plate as well. So that looks really good, and hopefully this will help with condensation, because right now I've been noticing some condensation quite a bit building inside the vehicle. One of the other things I mentioned in the beginning of the video is that the door handle for the passenger side doesn't open here, and yeah, that is true. It's not faking this for YouTube. It is unlocked. And yeah, it doesn't want to open, but it will open from the outside. So now I'm going to have to roll this window down, and that way I can open it from the outside just to get out. A little dirty. All right, now I'm going to use this tool here to remove all the clips around the bottom edge of the door card, and I can pop this off. Well, look what just fell out of the door card here. That is the actual linkage between the latch here and the actuator. So this just fell out, and look, it looks like it just snapped. So I already think I found the problem. Go. Looks like someone's definitely been in here before. This does not look factory. I don't think Audi would put duct tape on their cars. Okay, so this is the linkage that goes from the actuator to the door handle. And of course, as I was saying, this little piece fell out. So now it looks like I'm gonna have to order a new one of these, because I don't think I can fix this. There's just some things you can't fix, and this being one of them. So I'm gonna have to get a new one of these and fix it. Well, here's, hoping that was going to be an easy, simple 1, 2, 3, but there's going to be a bit more work to it than that. Well, sadly, I'm unable to fix the door panel, as I mentioned just a moment ago, so I'm going to have to wait till I order the part and get that in to replace it. But the next item I'm going to have to do is, of course, the glove box, which, as we all know, fail on these vehicles. So when I bought this car, there's this tape right here that was just stuck on here holding the glove box in place, because, of course, if I go to open it, yeah, it's just going to fall down because there's that broken latch right there. Okay, so believe it or not, I actually fixed the hinges on my old B7, so I should be pretty familiar with this. I do recall there being two bolts under the bottom there, and there should be some screws or bolts at the top here of the glove box. And I was right. It's an 8mm. So there's just 3 hidden at the top here. Okay, a lot more bolts than I expected, but that's okay. Okay, so with the glove box removed, as you can see here, it's a little dirty, which I'll clean up as well. But the main problem here with these glove boxes and why they fail is because there's this little thing off to the side here, which is the dampening mechanism. And oftentimes these things get really stiff, so the hinges, obviously they don't fall as quickly as they used to. And what happens is over time you just end up pushing it down and it ends up breaking it. All right, so this is the canister which I've actually just taken apart. This is what helps dampen the glove box, and oftentimes these get stiff and they don't really seem to work. So what I'm actually going to do is actually just clean out this cylinder in here, put a little bit of lithium grease just on this rubber grommet right here, and hopefully that should help it move a bit easier in the future. Okay, so here's the broken piece on this side here, so I'll just go like this. Just like that. And this is the one that isn't broken on this side. And as you can already see, I just did a test fitment for this bracket. So these are kits that you can get that have these brackets here. And I'll be honest, it looks okay, but of course not factory by any means. But the other problem I've noticed is that there's a bit of a gap here. You can probably just see that right here. There's a bit of a gap, even if you rest it up against it. So you have to kind of play with it a little bit. You're gonna have to probably bend it. There's probably about maybe 2 to 3 millimeters, not even, worth of gap. So this is the bracket for the other side here, for this side. And I'm gonna have to glue it as well as use the bracket to just make sure that it holds it in place and won't ever break again. Okay, is it my best work? Probably not, but it will hold, and that's really the whole purpose of this, is that it will hold, and it still looks somewhat decent. So the glove box is fixed. As you can see here in this demonstration, look at that. It's very slow, but it works. All right, you've joined me about a few days later, and of course, the other problem that we need to deal with is not the front bumper itself, because I've already dealt with that in a previous video, but actually the headlights. So when I bought this vehicle, the headlights, I mean, they're in okay shape, but this one on the passenger side, so the right side here, was getting that dipped out warning light, and I thought it was just the headlight, the actual HID, the xenon bulb here, because those do eventually die. So I replaced that, and I was still getting that dipped error message. So I got my OBD11 scan tool and actually found out that it was actually the motor on the right swivel module. So these are adaptive headlights, so these are, you know, they go down, up, and then left and right, so they turn with the steering wheel essentially. But the problem is that the mechanism on the inside, so the swivel module is what it's called, is actually damaged. So at one point I did take the headlights out of the car and actually take the headlight assemblies apart and actually look at it, and to see that in fact there was a bracket on the inside that was broken. So I did mend that with my plastic welder, and I also did the joy mod. So this is what's the joy mod, the black stuff here. This used to be chrome, this trim here. So I replaced that, and then found out later once I installed them that I was still getting that error message. So kind of left me at a bad point, because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a new headlight, but I decided to just suck it up, and I bought a new right headlight for about maybe $500 Canadian, which is absurd if you ask me, but again, they are worth it, and I want to get rid of that error message. So I bought a new headlight for the passenger side, but I am going to replace both the lenses here. I do have new lenses for both sides, so I'm going to do that for both of them. And because I was having condensation on this side, so I am going to replace both of them just to prevent that from happening again. And because of the magic of video editing and YouTube, I can snap my fingers and the bumper has been removed. So with the new headlight installed, I ran the vehicle for a quick second here and I didn't get any error messages regarding the headlight, only just that one, and that the fact that the bulb here, the main one, you can probably even see through the lens here, had exploded. So that main bulb, not the xenon of course, not this one over here, but the regular one here had actually just exploded and left a bunch of glass little shards in there. So I do need to replace that and actually have a plan for all of this as well. So as you can see, I have both headlights here on the bench, and the old one here is on the right and the new one here is on the left. So there's going to be a bit of a process here. I'm going to take some stuff from the old one and move it to the new one. And that includes the black shroud, as you can see here. So the Joy Mod, I want to move that over and then attach it to this new lens here, which is going to go on the new headlight, and then I'll seal it up and I'll be ready to go. Alright, so I took off this black shroud here, and as you can see in behind here, this is the adaptive xenon headlight here, and you may not be able to see that on camera, but just in here, that's where it broke, and as you can see, it broke again. So I don't know, maybe I didn't do a very good job at plastic welding, but it did not hold, obviously. But this plastic is kind of interesting. It's not like a really soft plastic. It's really hard, like ABS. It's really tough. So even to get the plastic welder to weld it was a bit of a pain. So I don't know, maybe it just didn't work and it wasn't meant to be. So I am going to just, you know, maybe keep this as a parts headlamp in case I need it for something in the future, but I'm just going to use the new one. I've already paid for it, so might as well do that. So I removed the lens here on this left headlight, and as you can see right in here, so this is your main bulb, so this is your main headlight is what it's called, and then up in the top corner here you have what's called a city light, so this comes on when your xenons come on, and I removed that earlier this week because I was trying to get to this bulb here, which I don't know, it's really hard to tell on camera, but it's actually not even physically there. That's just the glass. Everything else is gone. It all kind of just exploded, melted. A little bit of the shroud up here, fortunately it's still salvageable, but everything is just melted. God, that's a dumb design. So this is the back side of it, and boy, did it do a pretty good job of melting, at least starting to, the plastics around there. Unfortunately, it's going to be a bit of a challenge trying to clean this up, so I'm going to try and do my best. So this is actually the headlight housing here without the plastic surround, the chrome surround, and you have your bulbs here. So you have your main bulb right here, which comes on as your daytime running light, and then you have your little city light up here, they call it, and that comes on at nighttime when the xenon is on. So again, if I were to put regular halogen bulbs in here, they're just going to melt the plastic surrounds again, and I don't want that to happen. So I decided to invest in actually LED bulbs. So this one's actually just the one LED bulb that is with this kit that I got from the UK, and that is only just for the main bulb right here. The city light bulb will no longer be in use, and I'm actually thinking it's probably kind of good anyways because that bulb is pointless. So just this bulb, this one will be decommissioned. So there is an awful lot of harnesses and wiring for this whole kit, and that all has to fit within this headlight housing. So it's going to be a bit of a squeeze trying to get it all in there. So you have this one that plugs into the socket for the main bulb, and then this one goes into the city light. So that way the computer, at least the module, will know that it's not out and it will throw any codes. And then this connector here plugs into the new main bulb like that. Now the key is to just stuffing this in there nicely, so then hopefully it won't get in the way of the actual headlight. Well, you joined me about a few months later after assembling the rest of the headlight there, and it's installed, and I'll show you that right now. And also, not to mention, I did finally fix this passenger door here, and I'll show you that as well. To wrap up the video, there is a few items which we'll get to now. Another small thing that kind of drives me crazy is the fact that these are not red like they were from factory. Of course, years and oxidization has turned them sort of a whitish color, and now I'm going to have to fix them. And to do that, I'm actually going to use a heat gun at a low setting, and it should turn them back red. So I did both seat belt buttons here on either side. That one's still a little warm. It's a little bit glossy looking as well right now because again it's still cooling off. But yeah, no more pinkish look to them. It looks great. They actually look red again, which is so much better. Another very common problem with these vehicles is this separation right here, which I'm going to fix now. Okay, this is the back of the seat here, and as you can see, I have clamped down that plastic piece here, which was attached to the back of the seat, and this backing here, which separated from it. So right now I just have it clamped down and glued together, so I'm going to take it off pretty soon here and I'll install it. Here's what the backing should look like with the clips in here, all ready to go. So now we're just going to slide it into its position here. And I'm just going to line these clips at the top. And there we go, that's done. Now this next problem I'm going to tackle is a very common problem with a lot of Audis of this era from the early mid-2000s all the way into even the 2010s. And I'll let you see if you can figure it out. So I wonder if anyone can spot the obvious problem that I'm going to be tackling here. No? Okay, well, I'll tell you what it is. So right here, you may be able to see that this door, at least this chrome trim piece right here gives it away, is actually slightly lower than this rear door. And that's because a lot of these doors sag over time. So if you're unsure if your door is sagging, here's a good test. Did you hear that little catch there? Yeah. Another obvious sign here is if you go down the door here to the front fender, you notice that the gap here is progressively getting smaller and tighter, especially down to this point right here, which you can actually see is obvious damage, and that's because every time you open the door, it catches on the front fender, causing it to chip away at the paint, which has now, of course, caused rust. And that's because these hinges here, which are, in my opinion, overly engineered, I mean, although those kind of cool, this lower hinge often starts to fail and causes the door to drop a little bit. Fortunately, there is some solutions to this problem. One solution would be to move this door plate, this striker plate, further down or up, I guess, depending on where your door is sitting, but in this case it'd be down because the door is sagging. So you can move this down, but that's a bit tricky because you may have to fiddle with the bodywork on the car, which is not something I really want to do. The other would be to replace this whole hinge entirely. Now, these hinges, at least from Audi, are about $300-ish each, and that's pretty expensive, and not only that, it's a pain in the butt to try and get out. So I came up with another solution, and that is use a shim. So these shims basically sit right in this little crevice right here, and actually looks like there is sort of one from factory already in there. So this essentially will, by putting in one of these shims, move it up further so that way it won't sag. Well, you may be wondering, how the heck am I going to get these two bolts out with a socket and a wrench? Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to use one of these like Allen keys, but with a Torx bit on it. So this is a T45, which is what these bolts are. So I'm going to use this to get them out. So to help me, I'm actually using my jack here to support the door while I unbolt the two bolts here on the bottom hinge. Okay, so I lifted the jack a little bit, and there's now just a little bit of a gap there, and I think that should be enough. So I'm actually going to use this 1.5 mil plate first and see how that goes, and then if not, I'll reduce it to the 1 mil. All right, let's see if this made any difference. Okay, well, it's almost perfect. It's just slightly below where it needs to be, I think. All right, let's see if adding that extra 1mm shim made a difference. I'd say that's spot on. One of the last remaining items I've been waiting to do forever, and it's driven me crazy out of all the things I've done today. And this is it. This is the moment of truth. The S-Line badge. Now, of course, this badge is not from this grill originally. This is an S4 grill, so this wouldn't really fit. However, I did slightly modify it. I actually plastic welded some extension pieces onto it, which should allow me to put it in. So here's the moment of truth. Will it work? And there we have it. It fits. This is now complete. I can cross this off my list. You guys have no idea how much happier I am now that the S-Line badge is actually on an S-Line car. Now, although small, very minor detail, it means a lot to me and something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Now, of course, everything I've done here today is all small bits, basically, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, this car is still not perfect by any means. I mean, cosmetically, it could still use a lot of work. But other than that, though, it's at a really good spot now where it's in really good shape mechanically, and also all the small stuff, which, you know, you kind of notice day to day, are all been taken care of. So that kind of leads me to this point where I just want to say thank you very much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit the like button and also consider subscribing so that way you don't miss any future content like this, and also car reviews and other projects on my channel. And until next time, take care. Bye now.